Okay, so again, welcome everyone. This is our Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Living A Course in Miracles in Daily Life call. So let's go ahead and start with a brief meditation. So go ahead and close your eyes. And begin to slow your thoughts down. Bring your attention to your breath. Allow yourself to find that centering place, that place within you where peace resides. That place within you where you know that you are loved and that you are love. You are an extension of God's love and an extension of the mind of God. Eternal, whole, complete. And if you're still having thoughts, allow those thoughts to find their way to your heart center. Allow your thoughts to be very present and feel expansion from your heart center. It expands and extends from you throughout your home or wherever you may be, into your building or into your entire neighborhood, out into the streets. You are the love that fills all voids. You are the expansive mind of God. You are the expansive Christ mind. And we express gratitude to everyone who has made a commitment to fulfill their function of creation and expansion and extension of the eternal mind of God. Love, which has the power to heal all of our thoughts and all of our misperceptions. Now just take a moment longer and allow yourself to give yourself a really big hug and to honor yourself. Give gratitude and thanks to yourself. An acknowledgement that you have agreed to serve your function as a teacher of God. And then take a couple more deep breaths. Then go ahead and find yourself back in this room, this space, this time when you're ready. All right, and then like I said, I've muted you, but when you're ready to share or you want to read, go ahead and unmute yourself. So we're on page 208 in the text, Course in Miracles, chapter 11, section 6, Waking to Redemption, and we're on the next page, page 4. So can I get someone to take themselves off mute and volunteer to read the first paragraph 4 and 5 for us? I am your resurrection and your life. Whoever would be willing to read that for us.
I'll read.
Thank you, Holly.
I'm not sure if I'm in the right place.
It's page 208 of the text.
208, paragraph 4.
I am your resurrection and your life.
Got it.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Go ahead, Holly.
Thank you.
I am your resurrection and your life. You live in me because you live in God, and everyone lives in you as you live in everyone. Can you then perceive unworthiness in a brother and not perceive it in yourself? And can you perceive it in yourself and not perceive it in God? You leave in the resurrection because it has been accomplished, and it has been accomplished in you. This is as true now as it will ever be, for the resurrection is the will of God, which knows no time and no exceptions. But make no exceptions yourself, or you will not perceive what has been accomplished for you. For we ascend unto the Father together, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. For such is the nature of God's Son, as his Father created him. Do not underestimate the power of the devotion of God's Son, nor the power the God he worships has over him. For he places himself at the altar of his God, whether it be the God he made or the God who created him. That is why his slavery is as complete as his freedom, for he will obey only the God he accepts. The God of crucifixion demands that he crucify and his worshippers obey. In his name they crucify themselves, believing that the power of the Son of God is born of sacrifice and pain. The God of resurrection demands nothing, for he does not will to take away. He does not require obedience, for obedience implies submission. He would only have you learn your will and follow it, not in the spirit of sacrifice and submission, but in the gladness of freedom.
Do you feel like the resurrection in the life?
Fully loaded, fully loaded.
How is it loaded for you, Holly?
Just, can you then perceive unworthiness in a brother and not perceive it in yourself? For me, that just drives home the whole theory that there really can be no hate because we're all connected as one. You know, like I was expressing an issue recently and you said it's impossible that person can't love you, because even if they're not expressing it to you, because we're all connected, and that is the truth. And ego tells us differently all the time, and it's a struggle.
Mm-hmm. Right, because if our ego can make us believe that that person doesn't love me, even though I extend love to them, then I've bought into the whole game of separation. And it's, again, we're reminded the ego is cunning, vicious, voracious, and don't ever underestimate it. So when, it's all well and good that we say, I'm on the love journey and I'm going to extend love to everyone. And then we extend love and it's not received in the way we thought it should be received. And then the ego says, see there, they don't love you. And in that moment, we just bought into a misbelief, because it is impossible in their highest mind to them also not be connected to us in love and unity. It's impossible. But the ego wants us to be on that treadmill, because then the longer we're on that journey, the more off track we get. Mm-hmm. And we, this is where the rubber meets the road. Either we, in sentence 9, we ascend unto the Father together, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. So it either it is or it isn't. But what our ego and our personality and our upset wants to make us believe is, well, in this particular case, that's not true. Anybody else? How do you do that? How does that show up for you in your daily life?
It's just as simple as if you're judging someone else, you're judging yourself. At least part of it.
My workbook lesson today was lesson 167. There is one life, and that I share with God. There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. It is the one condition in which all that God created shared. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. There is no death, because what God created shares his life. There is no death because an opposite to God does not exist. So when we say, well, they don't love me, it's not true, because they are a thought in the mind of God just like we are. Now, their ego, or my perception, it could be my perception of their ego too, by the way. Because they may love me very much, but they're not showing up for me the way they want, or the way I want them to. So therefore they don't love me, or they're not giving me my kudos. It says, in this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. So it's not just you lay down in dirt and you're done. Like, death is something we relive over and over and over again until we don't. Because death is the belief in separation, and we live that over and over and over again. We have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. So if I'm not happy because someone isn't loving me or loving on me or doing what I want them to do, then I have bought into the belief that anything but my highest good and their highest good and our unified highest good is even possible. Earl and I did a recording on one of our episodes, and we talked about, I was reminded when I was in college and I was dating this young man. We had dated on and off for 5 years, and he invites me out to dinner, and we sit down and he starts reading the newspaper. And I was so offended, because how dare you take me out to dinner and start reading the newspaper? And I was so upset because he wasn't paying attention to me the way I wanted to be paid attention to. And I'm not here to say that his behavior was okay, but I'm just here to talk about where I went with it. Now, what's interesting is he started trying to read the newspaper and talk with me about it. But do you think I was very engaged in what headlines he was reading? No, because I had already decided that I wanted him to pay attention to me the way I wanted to be paid attention to. And his way of connecting was that he wanted to share headlines or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But it reminds me of, we can be kind. Our highest loving self would always want to be connected and be present to someone, but it's not always going to turn out that way, and I can let that train go, from LA all the way to New York, or I can stop it before it leaves, gets to San Bernardino, and decide that I might perceive it differently. And I remember the truth that there are no opposites. So do not underestimate the power of the devotion of God's Son, nor the power the God he worships has over him, for he places himself at the altar of his God, whether it be the God he made or the God who created him. So I'm just saying again, I want to remember that when I'm sitting at the table and someone wants to share the newspaper with me, that I'm going to remember that at the core of who we both are, we know that we are unified and we're connected, and that we both want the same thing, and that's to return home to our Father. And everything else is just trimmings. Everything else is an opportunity for us to remember that, and a lesson to look at as we take one precious moment at a time and invest in our bank account love. Let's put up in our savings account connection and love, and an extension of how can I be of true service? How can I really truly be helpful to myself? Does anybody else have any thoughts about that? No? Okay, so I'm going to then go ahead and introduce our speaker for this evening. So Veronica Rosario, thank you so much for being with us tonight. So Veronica was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, but she considers herself a citizen of the world. And her mission in life is to empower, educate, and uplift the youth through her work. So she's a graduate of the prestigious Newhouse School of Public Communication at Syracuse University, where she earned a bachelor and master's degree in broadcast journalism, television, radio, and film. And while she was at Syracuse University, she was very involved in the community and organized programs that focused on youth empowerment, education, and community service as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. She was among a pioneering group of students that helped to establish a study abroad program between Syracuse University and Africa. The first group of students traveled to Zimbabwe in 1993. So Veronica has a very long career in the television industry and has worked for major networks across New York and Florida. And she is also currently the owner of her own production company, Victory Productions. And as a TV news producer, Veronica was responsible for designing and executing morning, afternoon, and evening newscasts. She oversees the story selection, reporter assignments, and entertainment feature remotes, along with the team of writers, directors, graphic artists, and editors, often being the only Latina in the newsroom to serve in this capacity. And I met Veronica because we both serve as board members for a nonprofit organization called Just As I Am Youth Empowerment. And I can bear witness to the fact that Veronica does love youth, and she has dedicated her life to helping empower them so that they can truly step up into who they truly are and their dreams and their desires, so they can be powerful leaders going forward. One of her favorite sayings is, "A true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love." So Veronica loves her community and her country. She's Dominican by ancestry, Brooklyn by birth, and her goal is to give a voice to all of the stories that exist in these communities. So Veronica, we're going to have you go ahead and unmute yourself, and would love to have you share your story. You and I spoke this weekend, and we talked about how in everything that's going on in the world right now, you have a choice to make as a producer for the news of what you're going to report on and what you're going to share. And I know Course in Miracles is a daily practice that helps inform your life, and we're really looking forward to having you share your story. And so we'll turn the time over to you. Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you so much, Lorende. Thank you for the platform and the opportunity to just, just be a light for, for the world. Right before this call, and this is the way the universe works, like right before this call, like literally half an hour, I was on the phone with the mayor of Newark, the public service director from Newark, like two different power companies, and one of the young segment producers was trying to coordinate an interview, and it was like a half an hour of being in the midst of a tornado, and I stopped because I found myself, my energy just kind of being on that hamster wheel, and I was just like, okay, wait, this is all going to work out however it's supposed to, so let me just take myself out of it and let me just see what happens. And no lie, it was 6:53 and everything just kind of fell into place. And I said, oh, okay, I have time for my call now. Okay, I'm gonna go. And it didn't, I'm so used to being a doer as a producer. When I first started in this business, it was 1994, prior to 9/11, prior to Homeland Security and TSA checks and all this stuff. And life was just a little bit simpler then. But I was also simple because I was coming from a place of, if it bleeds, it leads. That was literally my training from the moment I hit the ground running. We got to get 10 stories in there. If there's a fire, ooh, is somebody dead? Like, literally, that was the thought process. Like, nobody died. We don't need that. What? I mean, just even saying that right now just feels horrible. And I did that for 10 years. I went down, I produced, and I started in New York, and then I moved across, down to Florida and Miami. And I had that same New York abrasive kind of, and I was trying to figure out why nobody, could relate. I was like, we're the #1 market. Like, you guys are trying to beat us. So, it was all ego. All ego. While I was in Florida, I ended up getting fired from one job. And I came back to New York and started working again here. I've worked at the local Fox station, which is much different than Fox News Channel. The local Fox station, WCBS, and I'm currently at WPIX, which is where, incidentally, I started my career in 1994. And when I came back, things started changing for me because I was exposed. I came back right before 9/11. I got the job in June of 2001, and then 9/11 happened in 2001. And I just remember during 9/11, and then there was like a couple of months after that, there was a plane crash in Belrose, Queens, flight 587. I still remember going to these locations and smelling, the death and the destruction. But what stayed in my heart was the pain of the families looking for their loved ones. And I think that's what started the shift, because I was like, what? They're coming to me to tell their stories. And I don't think my brain wasn't equipped with thinking outside of the paradigm of, if it bleeds, it leads. But everything changed because I realized that I was a channel for something bigger. And so now, fast forward to today, I realized that I have the opportunity to every day be an extension of love and start people's day. I work on the morning show, and for the most part, I think I've spent about 15 years on the morning show. I've produced every newscast there is: evening news, afternoon, drive time, whatever. Morning news is my favorite, and it's my choice because I get to start people's days with a different point of view. Yes, there's still a lot of death, murder, mayhem. And I get to put in there these little bits of love that kind of take over. So let's say, for example, during the pandemic, which we're still in, but I found this nurse that used to dance. She came from California and to volunteer. And I heard about her through one of my friends that works at Harlem Hospital, and she used to dance for her patients. And she was on the COVID floor where everybody was dying, period. Nobody was going to recover. They didn't have enough ventilators. People were dying. She lost 47 people. She would dance for them and just make them laugh. And it is still one of the highlights of the coverage during the pandemic. Everybody in the station knows who she is. All of my bosses, people stop and they're like, hey, can we check in with her again? Because there's something about when you really focus on love, it doesn't feel like news. It feels like this warmth all over your body. And that's what I look to put out there. I was telling Lorende, I found out about this man who opened up a soup kitchen about two weeks ago. His food pantry had a line 28 blocks long. 28 blocks. And I said, first of all, I need to come volunteer. And second of all, we need to tell your story. People, when you show them love, I find when I come in love, people respond in love. New Yorkers especially. That man, when he did the interview, he called and was like, my phone is ringing off the hook with people wanting to come and help. And the goal that I have every day, right now we're doing all this storm coverage, and the goal that I have is just, okay, let me give people some information that's useful. Let me give people some hope. Let me not focus on the, oh my God, COVID is killing us. Because what I go by is the first lesson in the Course in Miracles. Nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place means anything. Nothing means anything. And the same way COVID has shifted our paradigm, the Course in Miracles just shifted everything for me. So nobody can tell me that there's not a good story every single day to tell. Nobody can tell me that. My bosses, they just let me be. They don't even, 90% of the time, they don't even question some of the segments or any of the stories that I select. And that's huge because, it's always like a battle in a newsroom. A newsroom is a very competitive environment. It's very, boisterous, and, it can be backstabbing. It can be an ugly place. And the other thing that I use the Course in Miracles as is my guide, that when I walk in there, I am the light. So when I walk into a newsroom, good morning, hi, how are you? Everybody from the security guard to the cleaning person, I will stop. How are the kids? How are you? I see you. Because the application of that allows me to tell the stories in a way that's not demeaning to people. And, my ego is big. And I do battle with it often because I can get very self-righteous about, my stories and my career and my this and my that. And, the big con with my ego, because my ego is very smart too. So my ego will try to con me like, oh, well, I mean, you should be able to do this because, it would be, a great, for the station. Meanwhile, I'm looking for the accolades, and that's not what I'm here for, because again, from the Course in I can pick anything. Look, I just turned to whatever lesson 13, the meaningless world engenders fear. There is only one meaning in my world, and that's love. And the way I apply it, the way I live it every day, is the same way I just applied it to the calls that I was taking where I was freaking out. And I was just like, okay, higher self, just tell me. I know this is going to work out. Just show me how it's going to work out, because I don't know. And the other thing that really guides me is just being and seeing only God. I don't care if it's in President Trump. I don't care if it's Muammar Gaddafi. Being and seeing absolutely only God. That is God. And in order for me to have gotten to that point, I had to heal a lot of the things that I want to project onto those people. And a lot of that projection, like Lorraine was saying earlier, is just perception. misunderstanding, and a meaningless world engenders fear. If you don't understand it, then there's nothing. Look, I just pulled up another page. What I see is a form of vengeance. This is my law right now. This has been for 12 years, every morning. Even if it's just 5 minutes that I have, I just take a look, I open it up, and I just ask the Holy Spirit, show me what I need for today, because you're the only one that knows. And I open it up, and there it is. And lesson 21 says, I'm determined to see things differently. And that's been my guiding force. It's just, it is. Because that's the only thing that has brought me peace. I don't compete with any of my colleagues. That's not important. What is important is to tell stories, and to give people a voice that haven't normally been given a voice. And as a person of color in a newsroom, in a predominantly male-dominated industry, a predominantly white industry, I've always been like the weird one, to come up with these things. So it doesn't really matter to me. Sometimes I get hurt if I get passed over, and you know what? It's okay, because I am where I'm supposed to be, and I know that to be true. And the one thing that COVID has brought for me is just the gift. The gifts of the quarantine have been so many, because the paradigm, I've already shifted the paradigm through the Course in Miracles, but the paradigm now the paradigm is shifting for everybody, because nobody thought. I produce 6 hours of news from my bedroom. This is my bedroom. I roll over, turn on the computer, and I'm just like, okay, what's next? Everybody's paradigm has shifted. So you can't tell me that there's nothing I cannot do, because I see it being done every single day. And that's all because of the Course and applying the Course every single day. And it's I'm not gonna say it's easy, but I'm gonna say it's hella rewarding. Hella rewarding. Even when my dad passed away, my dad was my hero, is my hero. When he transitioned, and I just realized, you know what? He's still here, because the universe is based on energy. It's not based on, this is a spacesuit. This is not even real. My spirit is real. And that's what people connect with when I'm telling stories. And that all came from A Course in Miracles. That completely, because I was not this person 10, 15 years ago. I was not this person yesterday. So that's it.
Thank you, Veronica. One of the teachers that I've been fortunate to study with now for about 8 years, one of the things that she encourages us to do is to just open the table of contents to the workbook lesson and just read 1 through 50 every day. Just read those topic headings 1 through 50, which is similar to what you were saying, how you just open up the book and whatever shows up for you is the lesson that you take with you for the day. Because that's really, and I'm so grateful that you spoke about that, because that's really what we're talking about in this group, that when we meet twice a week, is how can we take these principles. They're not abstract principles. They're for our healing, and they really can make a difference in our lives. So thank you. And I was so touched when you shared with me the story about the man that opened the soup kitchen. And it really so touched me, because I've personally never seen anyone stand in a food line for 28 blocks. I've seen people show up to food kitchens and pantries, and I actually, when we first moved to New York, our family served in a soup kitchen, and we would go and make meals for people who would come, and they would come into the churches and we'd make the meal and then they'd stay there that evening and then they would go in back to the center the following day. But I've never seen 28 blocks. And it really moved me that you're right. This is a wake up time. It's a different time than we've experienced before. And there's an opportunity for us to awaken as a collective conscious to do something different. And I'm so grateful that you're on the front lines of the news, Veronica, and that you do have the ability. So thank you so much for fulfilling your role and your function at this time to be the light in an industry that doesn't always feel that way. So thank you.
My pleasure.
For saying yes. All right, so we're going to open up the time and let's do something you would like to share with Veronica, and then also what your takeaway was tonight. We have about 6 minutes left. So what was helpful that Veronica shared, and what's your takeaway from our time together tonight? Thank you all so much for being here and bringing your love and your light to this. Again, this is put on our YouTube channel and is available for countless people to see, and them seeing you and you bringing your energy is really, really powerful. So I have so much gratitude to each of you for continuing to show up. So go ahead and take yourselves off mute and share anything you'd like to. Holly?
That was awesome, Veronica. And my little inner child, I was like a journalist on the school paper as a kid. So you're like the way I envisioned my grown-up Holly to be. So like, but what gave me tears in my throat was when you shared about your dad and how the energy, that was next level, because it makes so much sense that this is not real. It's a spacesuit. That was beautiful. And I recall Lorindy saying too, her relationship got closer with her son now than ever. And to me, that's just so beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Veronica?
Muchas gracias, Veronica. That was really great sharing. And I like the part when you were sharing about basically when your miracle happened, when the people from 9/11 came and started to tell their stories, and you kind of like didn't know what to do but have empathy. So I think that's when you said that's when the shift came. So that was the miracle, the shift in perception of how you were dealing with things and a new way to deal with it. I thought that was just beautiful. And you said so many good things that just like point me in the right direction. So thank you so much.
So,
Meg?
Hi. Veronica, thank you so much for sharing history and what you do. That's like, I hear that cutthroat environment. I worked in a male-dominated industry, so, in a white male-dominated industry. A lot of times, some things that I'd say or do, ego would come, and I'd say something or suggest something and be like, blow it over. And then someone else would go with the same idea, maybe just worded a little differently, and it happens. So, I hear that. And I really, really did find it fascinating that you're saying that the paradigm is shifting, because when COVID first started taking over and my kids' school was shut down, and all of a sudden it was like everything started shifting. Like the paradigm, that's one of the things I started writing about was paradigms. And so it just, I'm still working on that piece, but like you to say that, I was just like, there's like this shift, there's a paradigm shift. And I'm like, this is wild. And of course, I started in the Course in Miracles in this paradigm shift. I didn't really know anything about it or hear about it before. So it's, yeah, I mean, what you said and just what you said really was fantastic. Thank you for sharing your story.
Meg, I love that you're writing about it, because that's application of, bless you, that's application of the Course in Miracles because you're getting to write your own story. You want to talk about a paradigm shift. Prior to, we were living in an upside down world, and you're creating your world. Like, that's insane, but that's what we were put here for. So the fact that you are writing it, that's huge, huge. Big kudos to you.
That's funny you said the upside down world, because I'm, kid you not, that is one of the ways that I would refer to it. It was the upside down world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica, for that, your inspiring story. It's really wonderfully inspiring. I had a question. After you had this shift, was it permanent, or did you go kind of back and forth from one perception to another?
I still do.
Okay.
I still do. Absolutely. I have to make conscious choices every minute of every day, and sometimes I'm not. I'm a student. I'm a student. I had a young segment producer that I was kind of training up, and you know, because of the Course in Miracles, I realized that, you know, there's a difference between strength and aggressiveness. And strength supports, aggressiveness kills. And because of this industry, I was taught to be aggressive, and I was putting that on her, and I took the very life out of her career, and that was harsh for me to see. So I honestly, and this just happened about 2 weeks ago. So it's a constant application, and I have to be willing, vulnerable, and open to see it every step of the way through.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Veronica.
grateful you were here.
Thank you.
Ying Ying, is there anything you'd like to share?
Thank you so much for speaking. I was so moved. I really loved how you talked about putting like love into practice and everything is in action. I really appreciate that. That's something that I have a lot of issues with. So thank you for showing me how to do that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So just a reminder, we have some courses coming up. We have the Healing Inner Child 8-week course that starts not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. And it's $199 for 8 weeks, includes all the materials and the gatherings and the meditations. So something that you can sew into. We also have a healed relationship class that's this Saturday that you can still have time to sign up for. That goes from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. And that's a fun time of learning how to love ourselves and laugh more is that course. So that's Saturday. And then of course you can catch any of our Tuesday night videos, and then Earl and my 15-minute short segments are now available on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and check out the Miracle Activation Center, those are there. And then he and I are meeting this week to record 3 more. And they're just about hot topics. So in that vein, if any of you have a topic that you'd like to hear Earl talk about, if you'll email me, we'll make it part of our segments and get his perspective on that. So Veronica, anything else that you would like to share? Any final thoughts of wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Just go out there and be an extension of love. Just be the divine. And we're all women on this call, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Man, we've been charged with some heavy duty stuff, and we are very divine. We are the soil that holds this world together. So as women, we are the ones that get to create the world that we're going to live in tomorrow. So this is serious work. And if we do it and do it right, man, the Garden of Eden is going to come back, y'all.
Love it.
I love it. Thank you. So in closing, from talking about the healed relationship in chapter 17, in the healed relationship, and if you want to follow along, it's on text 3. It's in the text. It's page 363, paragraph 6. And what I heard you say, Veronica, that this is the time for faith. You let this goal be set for you. That was an act of faith. Do not abandon faith. Now that the rewards of faith are being introduced, this is what we do. We think, oh, I got that. And then we forget to check in with Holy Spirit, right? So when we think we've got it is when we need to dig deeper. We think we have it figured out is the time to show up again and study more. So if you believe the Holy Spirit was there to accept the relationship, why would you now not still believe that he is there to purify what he has taken under his guidance? Have faith in your brother, and I would also say have faith in yourself in what but seems to be a trying time. The goal is set, and your relationship has sanity as its purpose. For now you find yourself in an insane relationship, recognized as such in the light of its goal. And then it goes on to say what we're being asked to do is to recognize the relationship and transform into a holy relationship with Holy Spirit's goal and not our egoic goal, which Veronica, you also talked about. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a blessed rest of the week, and we'll catch you Sunday morning, 10 a.m., same place. Be blessed.
All right. Thank you so much, Lorendi.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone. Have a great week. Good night.
Veronica.
Thank you.
Love
Thanks,
you.
Veronica.
Bye.
Thank you.